tear, it falls and hits the ground. A tree, it falls without a sound. A bird, it calls and sends you home. A man, he sits in the cold all alone.
Hi, welcome to The Joy of Sunflowers. You're about to listen to an interview with Leyla Bilali. She is a fertility nurse. In this interview, we were going to talk about fertility and fertility treatments. Unfortunately, Leyla and I had a very different conversation. I was so shocked. I wasn't prepared for the conversation that we had. So I just thought I would give you a heads up. We started the conversation before the interview just with the how are you? I didn't know that my how are you was going to start the interview. So that's where this interview starts off. I hope you find some comfort in this interview and this very, very early stage of loss.
I actually was I went in for my CVS exam on Friday at 12 weeks and the baby didn't have a heartbeat. So yeah, and I used the tested embryo, so they don't even know why. Um so yeah, so now I'm in the same club as everyone that I help on a daily basis.
When did that happen?
On Friday.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And you were
Yeah,
12 weeks.
I was 12 weeks and they think the heartbeat stopped the week before. And when there's no answer, because at first I think it's not my regular OB.
Yeah.
It's OB that performs the CVS and the amnios. And she was like, oh, well, the statistic is 1 in 5, and it's usually a chromosomal issue. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We use the tested embryo. So it's, so
Even when you know about it, it's not, easy. I mean, my second loss, I knew about it. I was in the world of it, and
yeah,
yeah, it was still like bewildering. It was just, yeah, just flattened me. Um,
yeah,
Gosh, Friday. How are you going
yeah.
with are you okay? And
It comes in waves. When you have other children, you feel very grateful.
yeah,
Not that it makes it any less of a loss. But I think that it would be much harder if I didn't have my other children, if not for anything else, as a distraction. Um, but it comes in waves. I accept, I repeat.
you
And
walk
I
past
think,
the baby aisle and cry.
yeah, you see baby strollers and you're like, oh my God, I never thought I would react like this, but here we are. And I think the hardest part is that scheduling the procedure. So when you're further along and you have to do a DNC,
Yeah.
and you don't just get in right away. They don't schedule it same day.
Mm.
You have to wait for OR time. And so I don't even have a scheduled date yet for this week. And so you're just walking around like you because you can't physically heal and move on until that happens.
Yeah.
So I think that element of it is just torture. And again, I've been on the other end of it with my patients for 10 years over and over again. But you naively think it'll never happen to you. And that if it does happen to you, you would react so differently because you've been on the other side of it so many times.
Yeah, no.
Um, but I think it cuts really deep no matter what your situation is. It really
Yeah, and
does.
it's amazing as well how we're all affected in the same way. Like I've spoken to women who have had actual abortions like through choice, and there was nothing wrong with the baby, they just had one.
Mhm.
And they have the same process. They literally go through the same thing, the bewilderment, the like crying randomly, the feeling broken, the blaming yourself, that like blame your body, like being like, oh, my body's so crap, like that it couldn't even hold on to the baby, and all this stuff that we say to ourselves, even though we know the science that we're being told, like, it's not your fault, it can't be your fault, it's probably some weird just genetic thing like in that moment, and it was just that egg and that sperm in particular, it's not you. And we're just like, it's my fault, I'm not a good enough woman and all this. And it is
Yeah.
like, it's the same, and it doesn't matter if you know about it, it doesn't matter if you've known someone who's gone through it. We all experience it in the exact same kind of way, with all the emotions. And I know there's like some variances and differences, but in the end it catches up with us at some point anyway, and we feel everything.
Totally. I mean, a loss is a loss. And again, just walking around, like my boobs are still like pregnant boobs, and you just like, I like catch myself like touching my stomach, and I'm like,
I
this is
know.
so bizarre that you kind of just have to like wait until they get you on the OR schedule. Like, there's
Yeah,
nothing I can do.
the waiting is, I mean, I chose to go natural,
Mm,
and the waiting was awful. It took like
awful.
2 months to even like for things to really happen, and it was just, that whole time knowing that there was no baby.
Yeah.
For me, there wasn't actually, like, the baby hadn't formed properly, like it was just an egg, so it was an empty sac essentially. So I was just like, there's no baby and my body is doing all the baby things, why? So for me,
Yep.
that, but then yeah, I've spoken to a lot of ladies like yourself who you have the baby and there's no heartbeat, and then you're just like, well, come on, buddy, can you wake up? Can you know about it?
Yep.
Because I can,
Yeah.
and that 2 months, I was so depressed. Like, I just didn't know what to do. And I have kids. I have 3 kids, and I was finding it hard to like just get up and brush my teeth and do any of the things. Like, I don't even know how long I went for without showering. I'm sure I stunk. In fact, my husband did say to me on several occasions, maybe you should have a shower, honey. Like, I'll take the kids. Like, just go and have a shower. Like,
Right. Right.
it's
Mm-hmm.
time to go. You smell. Um,
Yeah, and I think in the morning, like when you wake up and you just have to relive it over and over again in the beginning, like I keep waking up like, wait, did that actually happen? Am I like, do I really like have to do this all over again? Like, and then you're like, how am I gonna do it? Because like you said, you're just nervous the whole time.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I already feel like I knew too much, and I've seen too many bad scenarios, and now that it's actually happened to me as well, I feel like it's going to be even more heightened. And I'm not an anxious person. I was never that anxious pregnant person with my other pregnancies.
Yeah.
But now it's you can't go back. Once it you have PTSD. Once it happens, you just can't go back.
I mean, my mum said to me this because I said to her, like, I think I've got PTSD because every time I go to the loo, I'm checking, I'm waiting, I'm just like, I'm anticipating just seeing blood and stuff. Like, I'm just like, I'm scared. And she said,
Yeah,
that's not PTSD. She's like, you are pregnant. You're literally reliving what you already went through. You know, you are going to have these moments the whole time you're pregnant because you've just lost, 2 children. So now you're going to go through this. It's going to be hard and it's going to be crappy, but you're not going through PTSD. That's if it keeps happening later when you're finished having babies. And I was like, okay, all right. So I think yeah, when we kind of think of it like that, we're like, okay, we are actually putting our body back into that scenario, back into that situation. So we're going to think those things, we're going to relive everything, and it's going to be hard the whole time regardless. um
absolutely.
but I think you can't really make silver linings and like good things out of this. It's just awful, but you could like try and embrace the fact that
you're even more able now to help your patients, because you can say, I know, like I feel you and I know, because that is something that is really, it can be really hard when you're in front of a healthcare professional and they don't know, and they're like trying to help you and they say all the wrong things, and and you're just like, you don't get it, shut up. Like, just be quiet.
And I always felt really badly when I was pregnant at the office, and I did everything I could to cover my stomach. And I had like my really cute patients that I had had forever, and they knew me so well. And I remember one of my patients, she walks in, she just looks me up and down. She goes, "Your boobs are huge. Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "I love that we're so close that you know what my boobs look like." But that was really, and she was actually as much as she had been through, she was one of my first visitors at the hospital when I gave birth. She was lovely, but I always felt so guilty. And same thing, like when I would say to them, like, I'm so sorry, or try to explain to them what was happening and the next steps, or scheduling a DNC or whatever the case may be. I felt so icky about it, sitting there with like a healthy pregnancy while they were going through what they were going through. And I think a lot of the times they were super graceful. And like I said, I mean, when I had my first baby, the amount of gifts that I received from patients was I was floored. My husband was like, "Who is sending all these?" And most of them were from my patients. So yeah, I think it's all about approach. I think it's really hard as a healthcare professional to not get jaded. You see it every day. So you're like, okay, like it's gonna be fine. Like, I know you're gonna like eventually have a baby. So it's really, really important, the approach and the delivery, and not letting yourself be jaded by it. And like you said, I think that going through this now myself will give me that extra level of empathy. And now at this point, I really have been through, I've done an egg retrieval, I've done an embryo transfer, I've done a hysteroscopy, I've done a saline sonogram, I am going through a later loss, with a tested embryo. I'm going to have a DNC. I'm going to have to wait for my beta to go down. So now I think that really it's even more beneficial in the way that I can connect to the people that I get to help every day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to take something out of these things, because otherwise it would just, crush us. So I know
Yeah.
there's been a few ladies who have written amazing books that just kind of, walk you through it. They go through what they've gone through and how they kind of like dealt with it and kind of moved through. And then, there's people like myself who are like trying to, do something like a podcast or like an event or something like that, and trying to get warning out there for women, and try and get some awareness going, because most of us don't know about it until it happens to us, unless we work in fertility. But even then it's hard, because if you haven't gone through it, and like you said, like a lot of healthcare professionals are like, "Oh, I know eventually you'll have a baby," but then there are women who just it's not happened, and it's not going to happen, or it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, and they get to the point where they're going through menopause, and it hasn't happened, and that's it. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always happen, and I've been seeing a lot of ladies posting, you don't always get a rainbow, not everyone gets one, and
No.
and that just like breaks my heart. It's made me cry a few times. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think once you've gone through a loss as well, it just kind of, it just,
It changes you. There's just no way. It changes you. And I think that there's just so many things to navigate, that your brain is just, so you're thinking a million steps ahead of, will this ever happen? Am I going to do this again? How am I going to do it again? For me, doing another embryo transfer, it's like I have to like start that whole process again. I have to think about logistics. I have to think about my insurance coverage. I have to make an appointment to actually speak to the doctor, like all of the logistics. And then also in your personal life, you know, seeing everyone that like knew you were pregnant and having to repeat it over and over again, or trying not to burst into tears when someone asks you like, oh, well, like, how are you feeling? And you're like, well, I'm not pregnant anymore, you know? So I think going through all of those things in your head all the time is just overwhelming. And I have a mom friend who is about a month, or I guess, yeah, she's about a month behind where I was in her pregnancy. And I don't want her to feel like I don't care about her pregnancy, or that I don't care about how she's feeling. I don't want her to feel like she can't, you know, share her excitement, or I don't want people to feel like they have to be on eggshells around me, you know, like there's just so many things that you have to think about when this happens, that you have to navigate. It's not just the, you know, the black and white, okay, I had a loss, I have to physically take care of it, and then I move on. There's so many other things that you have to process. So it's really difficult. I can see how it becomes completely just overwhelming and people spiral. Now I get it. Now I get my patient spiral.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes your life. Like you take on this whole new persona. And one of the speakers said, you know, I don't want to be that girl whose baby died. And it's like, oh, we are, you know, and we don't want to be labeled that, but that is what happened. And like, yeah, there's something that changes in you, and I'm sure you feel it, you know, and you can't go backwards as much as you want to go back to who you were. It just, it can't happen, and you have to embrace this new you, and try and deal with that.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible, and you have to just figure it out and move on. And I think also, just for me personally, I've always been a very like open, wear my heart on my sleeve type of person. So for me, actually just coming out and telling people these things, and telling people what I need, and telling them what happened, and telling them to not walk on eggshells around me. And I think for me, that's what works for me and my personality. I imagine it's very difficult for more introverted personalities to express their needs, and you know, kind of convey to people how they would like to be treated, and what would make them feel best during the healing process. I think for an introverted personality, it's probably much tougher because they don't want to talk about it.
Or they don't know how they feel. Like, because a lot of women go, I don't know. I don't know what to do, and I don't know how I feel, and I don't understand this time at all. I think that's really great though, what you had, which is like you actually can say what you're needing. That is such a blessing. Like, it's so important to be able to tell people what you need. Like, I just shut off. Like, I couldn't really talk much in the beginning. I just, you know, I'd had 3 healthy kids, like natural, all natural, like natural getting pregnant, natural labors, everything. And it was just, it was not on my radar. I was like, that's never going to happen to me at all. Like, it's, I had 3 kids, it's fine. But yeah, it was just so, I just shut off. I couldn't.
But I mean, listen, there's no right way either. I think that's the other thing. And I think even with grief, whether it's a pregnancy loss or anything else, I think that people think that they are entitled to tell other people how to grieve. So what grieving looks like for you might be completely different than for me, than for somebody else. I mean, if somebody, you know, grieves by moving on really quickly, and that's their coping mechanism, and they need the distraction, that's what they need. If someone needs to, like you said, kind of just hole up and be by yourself, and you don't want to talk about it, that's what you need. I need to talk about it, that's what I need. I think people think that they are entitled to tell others how they can grieve, no matter what type of loss it is. And I think that this is no different. I felt weird yesterday. I decided I was finally ready to leave the house, and I wanted to go work out. That's what would make me feel good. And I felt so weird because, like, I'm, for lack of better words, I'm walking around with a dead baby inside me, and I'm gonna go to the gym with a dead baby inside. That's bizarre. And I had to kind of just power through that, because for me, physical movement makes me feel better. And it's an anxiety release for me, and that's what I needed. So while someone may look at me and say, ugh, like I would just stay in my bed for the whole week, that's okay too. I did that for the weekend. Um, I think that people need to just grieve however they need to grieve. And I don't think there is any like right or wrong way for them to process something like this.
You know, we have to heal somehow, and we have to find ways to be able to get up and move and do things, even if getting up and doing things is just going to the bathroom or going to the gym. You know, that's, I think it's amazing that you went to the gym. You did something that you knew would make you feel better, and that's great. I actually think that's so amazing and so wonderful, because I mean, yeah, I am one of those people who just stayed at home. I wallowed. Yeah.
And you're allowed to. And you're allowed to.
Yeah. Anyone watching and listening, we're giving you permission right now. Do you, whatever emotions, however you feel. If you want to go to the gym when, you know, things haven't quite worked things out in your body, and you know you still have things in there, that's fine, go do that. If you want to eat a tub of ice cream, go eat a tub of ice cream.
Yeah.
If you want to be really healthy and just eat salad, do that too. That's great. But just do whatever makes you feel better, or whatever you can do. Like, don't put pressure on yourself to make everything happen, because no matter what you say to yourself or how much pressure you put on yourself, you have to do what your body can do and what you can manage. And even if you push yourself, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it. So don't push yourself. Do what you know you can do, and just, you know, take it day by day, because it's not worth you just breaking and not having health and not having some kind of well-being. Even if in this moment right now you feel like I felt in the beginning, where I was just so depressed I couldn't move. You just got to do you.
Yeah. For me, like I said, that's my personality. I like to talk about it. I'm very type A. Like, if I don't have the next steps planned out, because everyone's like, oh, you have to take it one day at a time. You have to just, you know, first let's just get the DNC done, and then we'll go from there. And I understand what they're saying, and they're only trying to help, right? Like, it's very hard to find the right things to say in these situations. But for me, if I don't have next steps and I don't have a plan B, that makes me more likely to spiral. I need to know, this is what I'm going to do. This is, you know, this is how I'm going to get to my end goal, and focus on that. And I think, again, everyone's personality is different. Everyone's grieving process is different. And I just don't think that anyone should be able to kind of like judge what anyone else is doing to heal.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the judgments and things, they're just literally like people just trying to be helpful. Like, a lot of the comments, you're just like, that was just not helpful at all. That was so unnecessary. But then you look at them, and they're just like, they're trying to do something. They just want to help in some minuscule way. And you're like, you are the opposite of helping right now. But I get that you love me, and thank you. But no, shush.
I think everyone is just trying. Like, people just don't know what to say. It's really hard for them to kind of capture what's going on, and they love you, they care about you, they want to help you, but they just, that's actually one of the things I said. Like, my sister-in-law texted me, and she was like, we want to come over if you guys are up for it. And I said, as long as you're comfortable with me bursting into tears at random, sure, because I do think that that makes people feel uncomfortable when you get upset and they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so I think just you need to just accept that everyone is trying really, really hard to be there for you, and there are no words that they're going to say that are necessarily going to make you feel better. So, yeah, I think it makes people feel really uncomfortable when they see someone that they love so upset, and you're kind of just helpless. There's nothing you can say or do. But again, for me, just having, like, my best friend came over on Saturday and just sat on my couch and was like stroking my hair and snuggling, and that was immensely helpful to me. She didn't have to say anything specific. She hasn't been through something like this. She had really easy time getting pregnant, really easy pregnancies. That doesn't bother me. I'm not bitter about it. All that matters is that she knows that I'm going through something awful, and she was here to be here for me in any way that I needed it. Yeah, so I just think that was immensely helpful. They'll get uncomfortable because they don't know what to say or do, especially if you get upset in front of them.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough that any public displays of that, I've come across just nice people. But yeah, I haven't had too much that's been, you know, too unhelpful. It's just people like, "Are you okay?" But,
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think again, we're lucky that we have other children, because I think in the mom friend community, I texted the group of moms that my older daughter always hangs out with their children because I see them often. And I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know so that I don't have to repeat it over and over again in person. This is what happened. And the second you say that, people may not just come to you and tell you, but when you share, oftentimes they're like, I went through that. I know exactly how you feel. My friend wrote back, I went through that earlier this summer. My other friend's like, oh yeah, I've been there. You tell us whatever you need, if you need space, if you need to talk. So I feel like sometimes people may not talk about it very openly, but when you share your experience, it's so common, especially in that world of people similar ages at you who are in the family building phase of life, that have really, again, statistically, it's 1 in 3, right? There's so many people that have been through it. Speaking of statistics, I said to my mother-in-law the other day, I am a statistic within myself, right? I'm 3 pregnancies, 1 loss.
yeah.
So even within that, even within myself, I am the statistic. So I think that was the other thing, is that I was lucky enough where in that group that I shared with, and I had no idea that any of these women had experienced pregnancy loss. But when I said that, they, a couple of them one by one chimed in that they had been through something similar.
Were you shocked at that? Like how many women that were in your circle that you didn't know had been through it but had?
I don't think I was shocked. I think it's more you forget, because in the world of social media and everything else, you only see the happy stuff. And so these are the moms that I see at drop off, and everything is always hunky-dory and everyone's super happy with their kids, and at our, they were going to dance class and we're going to this class with our kids. And so I think you see this like perfect picture on the outside or on social media, so you forget that it is so common. So I wasn't shocked to hear it, but I did have to kind of step back and be like, oh, like, yeah, I probably looked at these women like they have it all together. Like they have their kids, they're fine. They're not trying to have other kids. But I don't know that because clearly they were, and it didn't work out. So I think it's not so much shocking. I think it's just in the world of social media and everything else, we only see the positive. And so we just forget that everybody can go through things like this, and does.
No, I was a little shocked when I sort of said it, and then I had people going, oh yeah, I've been through that. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like there's like a whole, like there's a whole lot of you, and I know you and I didn't know that. So it was, I thought it was quite shocking, but I suppose I never, obviously I don't work in fertility.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a mum who had 3 kids, and I was part of all the mum groups, and you only talk about babies and earth children, not heaven children. So
Well, again, I think it also makes people uncomfortable, right? So I think people are nervous to share those kinds of things because they're like, oh my God, like if I talk about having a pregnancy loss, is everyone just going to stare at me? Like, is it going to like, am I going to be that person in the room like for the rest of time where everyone's like, oh, like, like tread lightly. I'm even thinking about, the next time I see everyone in person. This happened on Friday and I told everybody yesterday, but I'm nervous to go to drop off and pick up. I'm nervous to burst into tears when someone gives me a hug and says, I'm sorry. I'm nervous on the flip side that if my coping mechanism is I'm going to jump right back into life and I'm going to continue to live my life regardless of what's going on with this. Are people going to, again, judge the way that I'm grieving? Are they going to think that I'm moving too quickly, that I'm not actually grieving or mourning? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
again, I'm like thinking
it's
of
all
all these
those,
things.
yeah, it's all those things that just kind of play on you in the same way that like when you have the loss, you're like, oh, it's my body, it's this, and you're blaming everything. But I think it's because you've changed and you feel the change in you. And then you're like, but what if they all like acknowledge that change? Then the change is real as well. So there's like another like layer of kind of that fear of, but then it will be acknowledged and then I will be changed. It will be real. And it's like, it is real. And we are changed. And I think it takes
Right.
time to kind of let that sink in. Like
Right.
in the first like 2 months, it took me time to kind of one accept that the baby wasn't there.
Right.
And that was what happened. And I was like, okay. And then another sort of set of things of like, I'm different. I'm not the same woman I was. And then obviously accepting how my partner dealt with the loss. My husband, he didn't really feel it. Like he was sad and he was upset for me and he didn't want me to be in pain, but he didn't feel it. So I'm like, why aren't you feeling it? So I had all of that to deal with as well. And obviously now I'm not like aggressive at him or anything. I totally understand, we all have different ways of dealing with things. And yeah, he just had set it up in his mind so he didn't have to go through that loss in general. He has this safety mechanism. But yeah, I think there's just so many processes and so many layers that you have to kind of work through. But yeah, I mean, Friday is so, it's just so soon, and I
Yeah.
think as you go through the next few months, it will, go however it goes for you. I mean, everyone's different and we all kind of experience it differently and we'll react differently. But I mean, you're already trying to look after yourself and work out and tell people, and that's really awesome because some of us find it really hard to tell anyone, and then when we do, it's like really awkward because it happened like ages ago and we're like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's happened. And then everyone's like, I didn't even know you're pregnant or whatever it is. Yeah, it's a tough time. I don't really remember the first few days because I think I didn't know what to do or say or anything. How's your partner taking it? Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's just like a very logical, very like cool, calm, collected, even keeled human.
Sounds like
Um, he's definitely somber and he's definitely, sad. And like you said, I think more than anything, he feels bad for me and like the physical part that I have to go through.
yeah.
And the anxiety that's going to come with, if we do this again and all of that. So I think they can't physically understand. So it makes it, I think when you can't physically experience it, you can't fully understand it. You just can't. It's the same thing with pregnancies when people say, oh, my husband wants more kids, or they don't have to physically go through it. So it's impossible for them to understand the mental load if they can't experience the physical part. It's just it's not their fault. They just can't.
Yeah, it took me so long to just accept that. A lot of women go, I just wanted him to sit on the couch with me and cry, and that's what I thought was going to happen. And it's like, that's most case, like, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but for most women and men, no, most men don't do that. They, get on with
it. And my husband's not a crier. I mean, I think I've seen him cry. We've been together for 20 years. I think I've seen him cry maybe a handful of times, if that. He's just not a crier. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel it in his own way. Again, right? Like, I don't know in his head and in his heart how his grieving process is. It doesn't mean that he doesn't feel it. He's just, maybe he just doesn't have the same outward emotional process that I do. Yeah. And he's also like just an eternal optimist. He always has been. It has not changed. And so in his mind, he's like, okay, this happened. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to, we're going to move on, and we're going to make it happen. Like, everything's going to be fine. He's just an eternal optimist. He just can't help him. Like, that's who he is. And I think, like, I had a moment where I got really angry this weekend, and I said to him, you promised that everything was going to be fine. You said that nothing bad, was going to happen. And now I look back at it, I'm like, that's such a crazy thing to put on him. It's not like he willed this to happen. It's not like he knew this was going to happen, but I caught myself getting so angry and saying that to him. He promised everything was going to be fine and nothing bad was going to happen. And I understand when people get angry and lash out. You lash out on those closest to you, right?
Yeah, whether it's usually the husband, bless him.
The husband, right? And my mom and I are really close. She lives across the street. She helps me take care of the girls when I'm working. And it's either my mom or him that get those angry bursts. And when you step back and look at it, it's just not helpful. It's I get it, and I think they get it, that it's going to happen. But it's just, I think that getting angry with your partner, who, that's what they are, they're your partner in this, is just long-term counterproductive. I think you need that support and that bond if you're going to continue to try after a loss. I think I'm not saying they're not going to happen. I think it's just, if and when they do happen, to kind of step back and say, was that rational? Was that necessary? And kind of just nip it in the bud, apologize, or have the conversation, or do whatever you need to do with your partner to move past that. Because I just don't think that the anger and the fighting and the expectations that we put on them on how they should be reacting, I just don't think it's fair. It's natural. It's totally natural. Yeah. I just don't think it's fair.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I think part of it as well is like, I'm the one going through this. You don't have to go through it physically and all this crap. Like, I'm still throwing up because my body still thinks I'm pregnant and all this stuff. Like, I think there's just so many emotions that we have to kind of process. And yeah, unfortunately, the closest one to us is usually a husband. And yeah, but I found something that helped me and my husband was, I said to him, look, can we just be together for like a week, like every night when the kids go down, like we just hang out, like we just sit on the couch and talk. Now, my husband is not a big chatter. Okay, he's not a big talker,
Same.
but he was like, if you need this, okay. Like he wanted to help in some way. And I said, look, the only way you can help me is if we just be a couple. Like we're just together. Like I just need my husband. And it actually worked really well. Like we had like long conversations, and it was just really nice. And it kind of brought us back together in a sense of, I wasn't getting as irate at him and like as emotional about everything. And yeah, it's funny because like we all have these like things of, oh, someone said this to me and it was so unhelpful, but then we've also, like you said, like we say things to our partner or to our mother or whoever it is, like, and yeah, they can be really bad, like it's, well, maybe it was your fault, and or like all sorts of, messed up.
And again, it's natural. It's I'm not like I just did it. I'm not saying, I'm not like judging that it happens. It's natural. I think it's just when it happens, just take a step back and think about the scenario and kind of try to resolve it before it kind of festers and gets stale. And then you end up in a place, which I have seen with a lot of my patient population, when they start going at it with each other, and it just makes for it just, like I said, gets stale. And as they go further and further down the road in their fertility journey, it just becomes so problematic. And then at a certain point, it's like, why am I even doing this? Like,
Yeah.
we're not even in this like loving space. Like, this doesn't even feel right. So I've seen it happen so many times, unfortunately, where partners just start going at it and it kind of just deteriorates over time. And so I think it's important to kind of just nip it in the bud right when it happens and take a step back, analyze it, talk to your partner, and move forward together. It's not just partners, like we said, parents. I remember one of my very first patients was a single mother by choice, and she was doing IUI treatments, and she was single, using donor sperm, and her mom was basically like her rock, her go-to, was going to help with, her future children and the whole thing. And I remember when she was going through the process, that she would get into it with her mom. And obviously, like, her mom was just trying to be helpful. And I think for that generation, fertility treatment, it wasn't the same that it is now. So oftentimes they don't even understand the science and the protocols, and they don't know. They're just trying to help their children. And so her mom, would say something that was a little bit insensitive, and they would just go at it. And so it doesn't even have to be like your intimate partner. Again, she was single mom by choice, and her go-to was her mom, and she would lash out on her mom. And they always like resolved it right away. And her mom was there every step and everything. But I think whoever that person is for you, it's important to mend it as you go along instead of just letting it snowball. Actually, one of my sweetest patients, she still sends me her holiday card. Her twins are now, I think her twins are now 7.
Oh, cute.
And she still sends me, that's like one of my favorite parts of the job, is every year getting everyone's holiday cards and watching their babies grow up. But yeah, she was one of my very first patients, and I remember that very clearly, her and her mom just going at it. But yeah, they would just mend it, and it never snowballed into something more serious. And she, that she was then able to have her mom support her throughout.
I've heard it happening more in the case of the partners that where they don't already have children, like, who are alive on Earth. And it's just like all that stress and all that tension, they just kind of put it on each other. But a lot of people with kids will try and like pull it back in, because they're like, we're impacting the kids and we've got to try harder. But I think it's just kind of keeping that in mind. Even if you don't have children here on Earth, you're with your partner, you love them, and you loved them before all of this started. So try and keep that. And if you can't, if you feel like you can't, like, have some date nights, have some like dinners or something, whoever it is. If it's your mum, you know, obviously date night might be a bit weird. Girls night, have a girls night. But yeah, have something to just kind of rekindle and you bring that relationship back and grow it back, because yeah, you're right, it's not worth it. Like, this stuff is horrible and ugly, and really beautiful things can come out of it, but sometimes they don't.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to lose what we had before coming into it, you know. And I think that's like the key of kind of going through this space, because you know, you can easily lose yourself and then lose your partner and then lose just everything.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if it is your intimate partner who you're having children with, that's the reason you're having children, right? That you're having children together. That's how it all started, is you and your partner. So if you're losing that, it's kind of just, and I get it, because I see the spiral now. I see how you become so focused on this happening, especially if it's you're going for your first child. I see the spiral. I see how it becomes all consuming. I never did before, but now I get it. Because I already am very lucky that I have 2 children. I didn't even realize how badly I wanted this third child until this happened. And now that I'm in it, I see how it becomes all consuming. And I even had to say, I said to my girlfriends yesterday, and I said to my husband this morning, I still want this, and I'm still going to push forward, and I'm not giving up. But at the same time, I want to still live my life as best as I can while we're doing this. I want to be fair to my partner. I want to be fair to my children. And I want to be fair to everybody else in my life. And I want to enjoy my life as best as I can while I'm doing this on the side. I don't want it to become my singular focus, but now that I'm in it, I see how easily it becomes all consuming. I totally see it.
I don't think it helps as well, because you're just like, every time like you try, it's like, I could be pregnant, like I could get pregnant right now. And then every time when you get pregnant, you're like, well, I got pregnant, so you know, this could be it. And you're just like, you know, any pregnancy could be it, any time it could be it. And what if this time was it? You know, what if this, you know, if we do it right now, it happens. And it does become like a I don't know, like a curse. Not really a curse, you know. We want kids, and we'll do anything. Almost anything.
Yeah.
But almost anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I never ever realized how it could become so all consuming, especially in my patients with secondary infertility. My patients that have 3 children and want a 4th, whatever the case may be. On the other end, we're, you know, at work, we're always just just move on. Like, you have these 2, 3 beautiful children. You have this great life. Like, at some point, just accept it and move on. And here I am, not accepting it and not wanting to move on. Like, I want this, and I want it badly enough that I'm going to continue to try. So again, I never realized it, especially with secondary infertility, how. And now that I'm in it, I get it. It's really hard. It's really hard for it to not all consuming. And I think just like mental health wise and for your own well-being, yes, you absolutely need to try to find a way to live your life while you're also doing this. Like, yes, I'm doing this. It's a part of my life. It's not my life.
Yeah.
So I think they can go hand in hand. It's just about finding that balance. And I think you do need to spiral first in order to get it out of your system.
I did.
And then be able. I think you have to. I'm in my spiral right now, and I know I'm going to continue to spiral. I know I have that end goal of gonna live my life and do this on the side. But right now I'm in my spiral, and I think you need to do the spiral first and get it out of your system to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you just can't you can't not feel the feelings. You
Well,
just can't.
there's been a few ladies who have told me that they, they kind of like pushed it to the side and stuff, and then it caught up with them years later anyway. So yeah, there's no escaping it. You either deal with it now or deal with it later. You have to deal with it at some point. So I choose now, because now is when it's happening, and if you choose later, you could be dealing with all that emotion anyway, so may as well just get it over and done with. But then again, I didn't really have a choice. I just kind of got depressed and was in a pit. So
it's natural. It's part of the process.
Yeah. I've been doing more routine-y things lately, and I think that's really helped, getting into routines. And I never was a routine person. I'd write a routine and it never happened. But I've embraced it. And that's really helped kind of get things on track and made me feel like more of a mum, and doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah,
I think that's a very common, like, psychologically, like life coaches and therapists and everyone will tell you that the routine. And I remember learning psychology during my pediatric rotation. That's why kids love structure, and they like need to know what's happening next, and like they like their routine because it makes them feel safe. So I think that's where the routine becomes a good coping mechanism, is that you kind of, if other things feel out of your control, the routine is very much in your control. So it gives you something tangible to have control over. And so I do that with my patients as well. I give them, things that they can control that make them feel more in control of something that's not in their control. So whether it's supplements or acupuncture or journaling, physical activity, anything like that, pelvic massages, whatever it can be that we can put in for them to kind of have like a to-do list or routine, so that they feel like they're in control of the process and they're in power. I think it helps.
No, it does. And I mean, my husband was on at me about a routine, and obviously during that time, like, I was just like, shut up. Like, you don't get what I'm going through. But then later it kind of got to that point, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready for a routine now. Like, I think that will help. Really desperate to do something that, gives me something normal. And I've, like I said, never had routines. So, it wasn't a normal, as in like I've done this before, but it really did just kind of balance me out and make me feel a bit, lighter, because I know things that are going to happen in the day. I don't know everything, but things that are happening in the day, I kind of know.
Absolutely. Even just day by day, that's more than enough.
Yeah, I think one of the things you were saying about already having kids and not realizing how much you wanted another one, I totally resonate with that, because like when I lost my first child, I was so like just shocked and so sad. And I already have 3 kids, and so many people have been, oh, just enjoy the ones you have. And it's like that same thing that they say, and you're just like, oh
yeah, and you can enjoy the ones that you have while still wanting another one, or still grieving the loss of one that could have been. Like, they can be two things. They're separate. They're completely separate. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy or appreciate what you have.
And I think, like, having kids, when they are earthside and you watch them grow and you see all those things, that they're their own little person, and they're like, you watch them, and they're beautiful and it's amazing. And then you know, when you go for a loss, you know exactly what has been lost. Like, you know it all the way to however old your child is. That's the age that you know you've lost. And I think that is the hard part for me, because I'm just like, I literally pictured all these moments like with the kids and with the newborn, and it just, that's the hard part, I think, for me.
Absolutely.
What's like, what's been the hard part for you? Like, what's been the hardest?
Again, I think for me, it's waking up every morning and have to relive it and redo the process of, I wake up, I'm like, did this really happen? Why did this happen? How did this happen? I like go back to Friday. I I just like remember her saying, I'm sorry, and then me just losing it. I like keep replaying that. And throughout the day, I get a little boost. I do my normal things. I'm like, okay, I feel better. I'm accepting this. You know, I'm going to make it work. Eventually, everything will be okay. By nighttime, I'm okay. And then I just have to repeat it all again when I wake up. And I think also, once you have this image in your head of what your life is going to be, right? Like once, again, I was 12 weeks, right? So I had no reason to really think anything bad was going to
That's
happen
the
if I had made it
golden,
far with it.
yeah, like once you pass the 12 weeks, everything's
Right.
going to be peachy.
Especially again, well, especially with a tested embryo, I really thought I was in the clear. And so you start envisioning your life one way. And so now it's going to be very difficult, if God forbid it doesn't eventually happen, for me to get that image out of my head of what I pictured it to be like with 3 kids and our family and whatever else, you know? So I think once you have that vision, it's really hard to let go of.
It is. And I totally get what you mean about the mornings, because now, like, from you saying about it, I remember a little bit now, like, yeah, it was painful to open my eyes, because it was just, yep, okay. And I always needed to go toilet as soon as I woke up. So then it was like, you know, reliving the whole, you know, bleeding thing. And if I was, and, you know, when I did start bleeding again, because I bled for 2 days, and that was the loss bit, like a little bit of loss. And then I just full on for like ages. And that constantly was just, yeah, that
Yeah.
was enough to kind of just
I
break.
think it's a constant reminder. And I think that's how it is for me physically right now, too, right? Like, even if you have the DNC and you have some bleeding after the DNC, it's just a constant reminder. Or like I said, like my boobs are still like pregnant boobs. So when I
Yeah.
wake up and I'm going to take a shower and I see my boobs in the mirror, I'm like, okay, like I'm still physically pregnant, but I'm not.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the physical stuff and like the hormones and everything, like it takes a while for it to like lay off a bit. I mean, for me, it took the 2 months, because obviously I didn't actually release the egg until 2 months in. So yeah, it took a while for all that to go down. I mean, hopefully with the DNC, it won't be as long. I'll have to chat with you about it, like when after, you know, you're able to
Yeah,
actually
and I'd be happy. I would be more than happy to share that. That's for me, that's like just, I like to talk about everything good and bad. So I'd be happy to talk about what the DNC process is like, if that's helpful to anyone. I'd be happy to. Yeah. I mean, I
honestly,
know it from the back end of
yeah.
seeing what patients call in with and what we see and how long it takes for the beta HCG to drop and all of that. I've seen it from the back end, but now I'll be able to physically say what it feels like too.
A lot of the speakers that I have sort of on this event so far have been ladies who have been through it a while ago, or like a few months ago, or, you know, so this is yeah, very very different. And I'm sure this will help a lot of ladies who are watching, because, you know, they might be in this season right now. or they might be in this season. You know, it's maybe it happened a week ago, or yeah. So I think it will be very helpful. So if you do want to speak with me about it, then yeah, I would love to speak with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. Anything I can do to help someone else anticipate like what's going to happen, because right, a lot of the anxiety comes from not knowing. That's what anxiety is, fear of the unknown. So if you don't know what to physically even expect, that just adds to your anxiety of like the mental aspect of it. It's like, well, how am I going to physically feel? There's going to be a lot of bleeding. Is it going to be painful? How long is the recovery? Can I work out? Can I have sex? Can I do this? So I think there's the fear of the unknown. So I think having as much information out there as possible in as much detail as possible, so people know exactly what to expect, is just, again, immensely helpful. And you can Google it and you can read, and it's like the standard on every medical website you go to has the standard wrote, it's a 2-week recovery process. You may experience some bleeding or spotting, blah, blah. It's not the same. It's just not the same.
No, I read those things as well, and then I looked at forums and I was like, these are very different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, again, having people who have actually been through it, even having people in the patients and stuff who I know, who I'm friendly with, that I told about what happened, having them, they know that they've been through it. So having them say, I'm so sorry, like, I know exactly how you're feeling, and they do actually know exactly how you're feeling, that's so helpful. It's like, yes, I actually get exactly what I'm going through, and you can tell me what helped you get through it. And yeah, it's immensely helpful to have someone who has actually physically been through what you are going through.
Exactly. Yeah, the things that got me through were like audiobooks, because people said books and I couldn't read. I mean, when you're crying, it's really hard to read. And when you're reading books about loss and you've just lost, it's like, I mean, how are you supposed to read? Like, you just cry every time you read something about it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do audio. So that's something that helped me. But yeah, some people say music kind of made it, I don't know, some music was all right, but then other music just kind of made it worse. And I was like,
yeah, I think music has always been healing for me. So I definitely I like to pop my headphones in and just walk around and listen to music, or if I'm doing something in the house, like I was folding my laundry, just listening to music. I think music can be very healing.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry that
Thank you.
that this is going on, and
Thank
I
you.
thought we were going to have a very different chat today.
That just goes to show you, right? This kind of stuff, it happens too often to anyone. Yeah, that's the way this fertility journey goes, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm sorry you've joined the club, but hey, we're loving and happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. And I would
even just talking to you about this has been so therapeutic. So thank you for having.
That it's literally been this whole event for me, talking to all these ladies, and it's so therapeutic. It's ugly and horrible and beautiful and wonderful and loving at the same
time. Coaster. It's a roller
coaster. It's so weird.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. And I hate roller coasters. I just
I do too.
I hate rides. I'm the bag holder, okay? I stand on the sideline.
Same.
Yeah, everyone else can have fun and scream at the top of their lungs. I'm good. I'll just stand and like.
Yep, that's me. I don't like rides. Get me off of this ride.
Yeah. I feel like that's loss. It's like, I don't want this one. Can I do something else? and you're like, no, gotta go.
Same.
But yeah, no, it's gosh, it sucks. I'm just, yeah, I'm sorry. It sucks.
Thank
I'm
you
with
so much. Thank
I
you.
feel it.
Thank
And yeah,
know you.
I know. So
Yep. Unfortunately.
yeah, you know what? I had something in my mind that told me to get some, like, have some tissues for this interview, and I was like, no, she's a doctor. I don't.
Yeah, you're gonna be
It works
fine. Like I said, I'm supposed to be the other side of this. This isn't supposed
Yeah.
to happen with me.
I was like, no, because loss isn't part of her story. And
Mhm.
and I should have listened to that.
And it wasn't, right? Until 3 days ago. It wasn't a part of my story.
And
But
it's
here we
so,
are.
yeah. And I think, yeah, I think that is helpful, like, because it's fine and wonderful and beautiful until it's not. And that's okay. And we know how it feels, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And you'll say it bloody sucks. And and kind of deal with that. But yeah, there's been some good stories, and I hope you're gonna watch some of the event stuff, because there's been some really lovely ladies who are going really well at the moment. So
Absolutely.
I'm praying for them. I'm praying for them still, because the baby's not out yet, but some of them have gotten really far, and I'm like, come on, please.
I know.
It's just,
That's how I am with my patients. Yeah.
you're just like, just this one. Like, just let them have this one. Let them have
Yeah,
more.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm sure we will catch up again, and I'd be happy to talk about the DNC after I have it done.
Yeah, let me know how things are going. Like, I'm more than happy to receive updates and chat. And if you do ever want to, like, just chat, I'm totally happy to do
Thank
that.
you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
It's always nice to speak to a stranger.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. There's no pressure.
Yeah, and they're not in your, like, everyday life, so you can kind of say whatever and be done with it. I don't have to see you, so it's fine. I can say
I
weird
think it's
stuff.
good. It's no pressure.
Exactly. Well, anyway, look after yourself, and just
Thank you. Feel good.
take it day by day. And if you want to work out, work out.
That's right. Do whatever makes you feel good. And I hope you feel good, Ella. Keep me posted, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not throwing up, and I'm not feeling sick anymore.
Oh, good.
And I'm feeling movements. So
good. That's reassuring.
yeah, I just get terrified every now and then when I don't.
I know. It's natural.
Yeah, it's all natural. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll keep you updated.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
I'll speak to you soon.
all right. Bye.
Bye.
Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.
And I